Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here with the off-season edition of the Hurricane Outlook and Discussion, recorded on April 7th, 2023, recorded around 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a couple of things to jump over today, including something that could be developing in the Gulf of Mexico over the next day or a couple of days or so. So let's go jump into everything. Taking a while to across the tropical Atlantic today, it is pretty quiet. We do have an upper level disturbance right now that is actually located over portions of Puerto Rico and Hispaniola, the Dominican Republic at this point. This is kind of just drifting off towards the north and west. No real shot for tropical development, but still could bring some rain to the island chain here and the Turks and Caicos. Then we have this large frontal boundary draped across portions of the United States at this point, bringing widespread cloudiness and even some impressive rainfall amounts over in Texas and Louisiana during the day today and over the course of yesterday as well. Even had a weird tornado that kind of happened in Louisiana yesterday as well. But elsewise, we noticed that the upper level cloud streaming here from left to right. This is indicative of, again, that really strong wind shear that is to be expected this time of the year. So looking at the hazards across the United States right now, we've got a couple of red flag or fire weather concerns across portions of Texas and Kansas and Nebraska today. And we also have even some red flag concerns across the northeastern United States. Elsewise, it's pretty quiet besides this flash flooding threat across portions of the south like Louisiana and Texas for that widespread heavy rainfall that has been occurring over the last several days. Even got a little severe thunderstorm warning down there as some of these storms are perking up down there across New Orleans. But elsewise, it's pretty quiet, but we will have to turn our attention to the Gulf of Mexico over the next couple of days. For that, let's look at the GFS 850 millibar vorticity, or the spin in the atmosphere about 5,000 feet off the ground. We notice that, first of all, today, here's this kind of frontal boundary that's just kind of draped in through here. Again, not really expecting anything with this front in particular, but we will see, however, as we move throughout the next several days, we kind of get this system to potentially emerge out here into the Gulf of Mexico. And we notice that there is a little bit of spin here in the atmosphere at around 90 hours from now. This is valid for 2 a.m. on Tuesday, so April 11th here. And we notice that this system kind of takes hold, and there is at least a little bit of an area of consolidated low pressure right here in the southern Gulf. And in fact, if we look at the European forecast, for example, the European is also fairly similar, with this front diving towards the south, and on the tail end of that, we notice that something ends up forming here by Tuesday into Wednesday in the Gulf of Mexico, beneath this ridge that seems to be forming over here, and that is indicative on both the forecast guidance. So we have some consensus in both the models that an area of low pressure is expected to form in the Gulf of Mexico sometime here on Tuesday going into Wednesday of next week. But the details beyond that are still a little bit murky. If we actually look here at about 250 millibars, we're looking at the upper level winds here at about 30 to 39,000 feet. And we notice that there's going to be a pretty strong subtropical jet out here kind of rounding this area. It's kind of a very messy pattern, and it's not going to be very conducive for tropical cyclone formation. If we look here, there's an area of brief, less vertical shear here on Thursday that allows an area of low pressure to consolidate 996 millibars here on the GFS. But if we actually look here at the precipitation field and that relative humidity aloft, we notice that there's a lot of dry air being pulled into the back side of this, and that is likely going to help to entrain a lot of that into whatever circulation ends up forming. So the environment is not super conducive for any significant tropical development. If you look here at the GFS precipitable water field, this basically is a measure of how much moisture you can squeeze out of an atmosphere in just one particular column of air, really. We notice the front sliding south. You can notice that it actually becomes much drier across Florida and the entire southeast basically through Sunday of this week. We get that resurgence of moisture, and here's that area of low pressure that begins to form out here on the GFS and tries to swing up towards the north and east here. And you notice that there is a column of higher moisture not only centered around this area of low pressure, especially to the north, but also off towards the east of this circulation as well. This moisture tongue kind of gets driven up towards the north across the Florida Peninsula and even into portions of Georgia. You kind of got a warm front. This seems more of a non-tropical low here. But an area of moisture is likely to come to this area regardless, which is great news, especially for Florida, which desperately needs the rain. But an area of moisture is going to be coming along with this area of low pressure. But the one thing going against tropical development, if we actually look at the sea surface temperatures here, this is the actual temperatures valid for yesterday. We notice that most of this area where this low pressure system would track, generally in here, is very unconducive for tropical development. In fact, you need about 26 degrees here, 26 to 27 degrees for appreciable tropical development. And you notice that is going to be well to the south of where this will eventually track and will find itself in cooler waters around 24 to 23 Celsius, especially up near the shelf waters. Combined with the fact that we're just not going to have a lot of decent vertical shear in here to allow for development, I'm not so sold on that actually coming to fruition. So tropical development seems to be meager, and I think this is going to be more of a non-tropical low. But with that being said, by mid-next week, I think we are going to have a patch of light rain, a light precipitation at least, or some type of precipitation around almost the entire southeastern U.S. I think this whole area is going to have a chance for seeing precipitation as we, again, have that moisture being surged up from the north and also around the circulation on the northern side. And I feel like the heavier precip is going to be confined to the coastal areas for now. Again, the track is going to be something kind of like this or, something like that. It just kind of depends. Again, there's several possible solutions on the table right now. And again, any one particular solution would bring varying amounts of impact to areas, but this is not going to be, a hurricane where your strongest winds and heaviest rain is going to be confined to near the core. It's going to be a little bit different from that. And in fact, there's going to be a pretty large wind field here. It's going to be gusty across several areas. In fact, gusts up to near tropical storm force could be expected all the way into the western coast of Florida here. So just a wide swath of area from near New Orleans all the way to near Tampa, I think, could see near tropical storm force gusts at times. It is going to be quite breezy. And again, this forecast is subject to change. But right now, the strongest wind gusts, I think, are going to be confined to near the coast from near New Orleans to Mobile and just to near the Tampa vicinity. I think those wind gusts there could top around 30 to 35 miles per hour at times, especially, the closer to the ocean you get, the less the less effect of the friction from the surface of the earth. So I think you are going to be ending up with some gusts 30 to 35 miles per hour, especially near the coast. Inland locations, especially across Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, I think those areas are going to have a harder time getting gusts higher than about 25 miles per hour. So we'll be watching this. I just wanted to give a brief update here. I don't think this is going to be anything significant, but definitely could ruin some outdoor plans, especially if you live near the coast. You could have a prolonged period of heavy rain showers, bringing some rain, even 2, 3, 4 inches in spots could be expected, especially near the coast. Again, this forecast is subject to change, so we'll be monitoring everything there. All right. That being said, have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley. I'll talk to you guys again some more over the next coming days.